There was a time when people used to say, when US sneezes, the world would catch cold. But that's something which is a thing of the past. This phrase has been replaced now by a new one. Now, people would say, when China sneezes, the world would catch coronavirus. That's precisely what happened during the last 2 months. Coronavirus started in China. It not only affected the human beings, but it affected the stock markets very, very badly. Dear viewers, in this episode, I am going to discuss with you every implication the coronavirus has brought to the stock markets. This is NRI Money Clinic for you, and I am Dr. Chandrakant Bhatt, investment consultant and a financial planner. This is an attempt to impart financial literacy. There is no hype here, it's just the right advice.
NRI Money Clinic. No hype, just the right advice.
Dear viewers, before we understand the implication of coronavirus on the stock markets, let's understand what actually happens in China during the month of January and February. During the month of January to February, somewhere around 21st of January to 21st of February, in between, China goes through an event called Chinese New Year or the Lunar New Year as per the Chinese calendar. This is a major event in China. They celebrate it over a period of 7 to 10 days. During this period, everything's come to a standstill. The factories would close, the stock markets would close, the factory workers who have been working in the factories throughout the year take leave and go to their homes thousands of kilometers far away. In fact, the preparations for this lunar year starts 2 to 3 weeks prior to the event starting itself. Similarly, when the event closes, the workers will slowly start coming back and resume their work. So while the event may last for 7 to 10 days, actually the disruption to work, the manufacturing, transportation, everything happens over 3 to 4 weeks of time. Around the same time, there is a city called Wuhan in central China, which is a manufacturing hub and it's also a transportation hub. In this city, during the last week of December, a couple of people came down with a respiratory disease. Initially, doctors could not identify the cause for this respiratory disease, but subsequent investigation showed that the disease is caused by a coronavirus strain. But this strain of virus was not known before. It's a new strain. It was spreading very, very fast. By the time doctors could realize the implication of this, already the migration of workers from Wuhan to different parts of China has already started. That disease was gaining ground. It was moving at a terrific pace, and government was looking at all possible measures to contain this disease. The government said, now the workers who have gone back to their hometowns should not return back. Government resorted to mass quarantine. They told the factories which were supposed to restart their function around first or second week of February were asked to remain shut till further instructions. The workers were asked to stay back at home, and the whole manufacturing hub, the economic activity of China for a while came to a standstill. So when this was happening in China, the World Health Organization took note of this epidemic. Several governments also took notice of this disease spreading into different parts of the world. They issued travel advisories, they restricted movement of people, they started screening people in the various airports, and all possible measures across the globe have been taken to contain this disease. That's fine. Now, as things stand today, the spread of disease in China has come under control. Day after day, the number of deaths, the number of new people who have been affected is slowly coming down. But why does the stock market came down because of coronavirus? Is the stock market came down really because of coronavirus, or is there anything more to it? Let's try and analyze this. Around the Chinese New Year, every year, there is always a pressure on the supply chain management because the factories get closed. Workers will start leaving earlier to the event and they start coming and resuming their works late. always the supplies will get stretched out. Now, when this incident happened in tandem with this coronavirus issue, the supply chain management went through a total chaos. Apple issued warnings about their sales, telling that the sales may dip because of this particular problem. Several car manufacturing companies could not procure the required accessories from Chinese manufacturer, and they were forced to cut down on their production or stop their production altogether. As we know, today the world's manufacturing, most of the things will happen in China because of the cheap labor and because of cheap manufacturing facility that has been set up there. Now, when the whole China went into a kind of a mass quarantine and a war footing to control the disease, the world's supply chain got disrupted. This is the primary reason why the stock market started coming down. So this disease of coronavirus can affect economy in three distinct ways. One, disruption of supplies. I already told you, because of lack of manufacturing or because of the quarantine, the movement of goods can get hampered and it will affect the whole supply chain management of manufacturing units in the rest of the world. The sales can get affected because of this. This is disruption. There is another aspect where the consumption could be totally destroyed. For example, to contain the disease, the travel bans have been put in place. To contain the disease, people have been asked to stay back at home or start working from home. The dispatch of goods has been delayed. Now, this is resulting in permanent loss of revenue for companies like airlines, tourism companies, restaurants, and various service industries, which it can never get back. So this is a permanent loss of consumption. If it is a disruption, at some point of time, the demand may come back. For example, if some goods have to be imported for project work, the project could get delayed, but there will not be a destruction of total demand because of that. But if it is a service industry, like an airline or as a tourism, then there can be a permanent loss of consumption during that particular period. This was also working on the airlines, and if you visit any of the airports today, you see very, very thin crowds in any airport. Now, because of this disruption of supplies and destruction of demand, the demand for commodities has come down. When the demand for commodities came down, the prices of commodities have also come down. Because goods were not shifted, because there was a mass quarantine, or out of fear people did not move out, or because people were asked to stay at home or work from home, the consumption of fuel has come down drastically down. The demand for oil has come down to a great extent. Now, this is reflecting in the international prices of oil. Now, OPEC feels that the demand for oil, which was supposed to grow at a particular level, may not happen this year, and they are already contemplating to cut the output of oil to see that the rates remain in a profitable level. Now, as a result of all this, the market feels that the results for this financial year will not be same as that of the last year. Either they may remain static, or in all likelihood, it may come down. That's precisely the reason why markets came down very, very sharply down. As we stand today, a lot of demand destruction is likely to happen in days ahead. Already we have seen several events have been postponed or cancelled. People have already been advised not to travel. Schools have remained shut. This is all resulting in a cascading effect. It is estimated that the GDP for China is likely to be dropping by 1 percentage point in this quarter itself due to this destruction of manufacturing which has happened as a result of this particular disease. If this can happen in China, the same thing would happen in rest of the world also, because the world depends on the goods and services that is produced by China. If China has dropped its GDP numbers, it's automatic to expect that the rest of the world also declares a lower number. A decade or 2 decades before, if something has happened in China, it wouldn't have affected the world market to such an extent. But today, literally 16% of the world's GDP comes from one single country called China. So anything which happens there will have a lasting impact on the world economy. The markets are expecting this and they have started to come down. And in the last 2-3 days, you could see the magnitude of the stock markets fall. There is one another major reason why the stock markets fell. The reason for that is the markets were climbing continuously higher during the last 5 years. When a market goes through a prolonged bull run, it just needs a reason to correct itself. At some point of time in future, with or without coronavirus, the markets would have fallen. Now, coronavirus, all that it did was gave an opportunity for the markets to come down to reasonable levels. So, if you look at the history of the stock markets, when the bull markets gets prolonged, they will be just waiting for a reason to come down. So, in any case, the market should have come down and coronavirus gave just the right opportunity. That's the story of coronavirus and why it affected the stock markets. Dear viewers, these are the facts and figures about the coronavirus, how it affected the stock markets of the world. But we have a special interest about Indian markets. How does the coronavirus incidence affect the Indian market? Is there anything of special significance to Indian markets? If you want to find an answer for this, you have to wait for part 2 of this video, which will be released very, very soon. Dear viewers, if you like the topic that I discussed today, please give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed to this channel till now. Please share this video with your friends and relatives. I'll be back with you with part 2 of this episode very, very soon. Thank you very much for watching this episode on NRI Money Clinic.
Press the bell icon for more details and subscribe our channel.